Austin Linney, welcome to the Real Build. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I want to say before we get started, is there any guys? I know y'all listen to this podcast a lot. Is there any better person in the real estate space than Mr. Bill? I don't think so. Always a great time talking to you, my man.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to return the favor finally, man. I've been on your show twice, so glad to have you on mine here and talk about what you're doing. You're doing some big things in the real estate world for sure. So want to dive into that big time today because of what is going on in the world. I've had a lot of real estate investors on, so I don't want to kind of repeat and sound like a broken record on this show, but times are different from when I had them on. So obviously interest rates are rising. We're seeing less inventory as well still, but property values are a lot higher as well. So where are we going? Construction costs are through the roof. There's a lot of factors going into this. But before we get into that too, I want to hear about who is Austin Linney.
We'll move through it really quickly. On the surface, my dad was a dentist when I grew up, and, I lived in the quintessential neighborhood, across the street from NBA players on the golf course. Nothing on the surface, nothing is really bad. I just was not engaged in school. It wasn't really my bag. Didn't find it challenging. And when I was 17, I was getting in trouble a lot. And my parents said, hey, you need to go to military school or you need to go to Beaumont, Texas. And I was like, I don't know where Beaumont is, but it sounds better than military school. Let's go there. So we moved out to the country. And then about 3 months into that, my parents said they were getting a divorce, but I've never seen them fight. So I was like, I blamed myself for the divorce and labeled myself as the reason it happened. And, started mentally beating myself up, which turned into, finding solace in alcohol and, cocaine and methamphetamines in 19, 20, 21. And just kind of got in, was still working and doing all the thing, but kind of got in with the crowd that accepted me and proceeded to be angry at the world for a really, really long time. Some things happened where I stayed up for 8 days straight and kind of just the wasn't eating. It was a whole thing. And somebody came to me and they're like, you're better than this. And so I moved where I was. I moved to Austin, and I was done with the hard drugs. I was just I was over it. I kind of ended my rope, and luckily I got out and I quit cold turkey, and I haven't looked back. But that didn't mean that alcohol still wasn't there, and proceeded to be a functioning alcoholic for 18 plus years, working 80 hours a week, but still, I sold wine for a living. I made drinks. I was a master bartender, bar manager, and just not really living up to my potential, but still investing in some real estate from time to time. And it wasn't until I joined my first mastermind that I got around, high level investors, and they were like, hey, kid, man, there's something about you that's like magnetism, but you're all over the place and you're kind of a drunk. So you need to they were like, you can do better, and they believed in me, and they said, there's something in you. And so I kind of borrowed these older guys that had 35, 150 1,000 unit Airbnbs. And I was like, I see myself in them, but I can't get there, where I'm at currently. And I had a mentor ask me, he said, if it was 10 years from now and you were in a room full of billionaires and you deserve to be there, what's the one thing holding you back? And without flinching or even thinking about it, I said alcohol. And that kind of planted the seed. And I wound up starting an Airbnb management company for buying and managing with two guys who were 8 months and 11 months sober. And they said, listen, if you've ever thought about it, give it a shot. And so I made it 26 days, and I drank again. And I was so fucking mad at myself because I didn't even enjoy the drink. I was like, this is so stupid. What are you doing? And so I gave myself through Christmas, and I got to New Year's, and it was on January 9th. 3 years and 3 months ago that I stopped completely, and I've lost 80 pounds and my whole life has changed, and it's been a wild ride, and it was the best decision I ever did for myself. And the trajectory of my life has significantly changed. And now we can talk about all the cool stuff I'm doing now. But for me, that was really the defining moment. And there's many of rock bottoms. What I didn't tell you is my parents kicked me out, and I slept in a downstairs closet. Like, it's not a joke. It's not a metaphor. Like, I slept in a closet at a friend's house because there was nowhere else for me to live. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have clothes. I had a bag of clothes and a fan. That was it. And I wound up laying brick and tile in Texas in the middle of summer. And you haven't lived until you bricked houses and garages in July when it's 120 degrees. And if that doesn't make you want to change your life around, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Your story's pretty crazy. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's awesome. And where you are today, obviously, too. And like thinking about it too, just a couple of things. Like, a lot of people don't understand, like, it doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, you obviously came from a family that, I read your story too. You had some money. They were living on a golf course. You didn't, your parents did. And a lot of people say, your parents have money, must be nice, this and that, but they don't know the true situations of life and what you have to go through and so on. Like, you getting kicked out, you being left kind of on your own, having to live in a closet and kind of work your way up from the bottom and so on. I mean, we don't think that way. Like, I came from a middle-class family. My dad was blue collar, came from nothing, worked his way up, but he also instilled in us that we had to work no matter what. I grew up hearing must be nice quite a bit, but they didn't understand what I had to face. And a lot of guys know what I had to face. Like, I did a post a long time ago about how I always had to work. And a lot of guys that were on my high school football team and knew me in college and stuff like that, they're like, yeah, you're spot on with this post. Like, we remember you having to leave to work after practice, on early practice on a Saturday, and you would go to work and work all day while everybody else would go have fun. It's just, that's the way it always was I just always had to work hard, put my head down. And that's why I'm at where I'm at too. And we've all had our challenges throughout life too. We've all had to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to level up? What do I need to do to get myself to the next level? With me, I talk about my divorce. I got a divorce. I was being held back quite a bit in a lot of different ways. I've talked about this in the past, and I had to make the decision to cut tie, divorce the person I was with to level up and get ahead and move up, because I was being very held back. And now I'm with somebody polar opposite that pushes me, that, wants me to succeed. I talk about selling our house. I'm like, I can make money on this house. I want to sell it. She's like, whatever. I don't really want to sell the house, but whatever you got to do to get us to where our dreams are and where we got to be, do it. That's the type of person in my corner now. So it's crazy, these things that happen in life.
I didn't know that. Same for me.
Yeah.
So 13-year marriage, divorced. So it's really funny how similar. You and I both just got re-engaged.
Yeah.
With the polar opposites, right?
Yeah.
And my coach said this to me, and this was kind of like the spear in the heart, like middle, right before we got divorced. He says, you make me proud every day. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, dude, you're doing all this. You're crushing real estate, and you're networking, and you're creating businesses, and you're doing all this with somebody at home that's not supportive. Mm-hmm. He goes, imagine how high you would fly if you had full support.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, fuck. That was kind of like it, right? And what's interesting is, back to your previous point, that's the reason that I didn't share my story for many years, because I didn't have the family that was negative. I didn't think I had a place to share my story because I wasn't abused. The abuse was on myself, and what you have to realize, and I have a good friend who beat cancer twice at 26 years old. And I had him on the podcast. And at the end of the podcast, I said, hey man, I can't relate to you because you fought death off. And he goes, hey man, your struggles are your struggles and my struggles are my struggles. He goes, don't you dare compare yourself to me. And he goes, remember that big doors swing on small hinges. And he goes, so whatever you went through is your shit, own it and just move on. And I think if everybody takes that lesson with them, and as long as you reach out to somebody, if you're silently struggling right now, just because you think you don't have a leg to stand on, remember that there's people out there that understand.
Yeah, and I 1000%, that's awesome. But we've all had struggles no matter what, some harder than others, and some come from different situations and worse situations than others as well. But we all face what we have to face in life. Life ain't easy, and a lot of people don't know what you faced until you tell your story, like you are, like, and explaining what you went through. I've told mine. I've been vulnerable and talked about the things that I went through in life too. Nobody has really that cushy life all the way to the top. I mean, they never do. There's a lot of stuff you don't know about certain people too, because they haven't shared it. But I mean, everybody comes from some people come from better situations. They get trust funds, stuff like that. That ain't me. That ain't you. And I don't knock that, but it's just I've literally had to put in the work my whole entire life, because that's the way my dad was growing up too. He came from nothing. He was out on his own, like yourself, at a early age, and kind of, after going to war and stuff like that, had to kind of come out from nothing and work his way up. And that's what he instilled in us. So love it, man. Let's talk about your real estate a little bit. Like, why, out of everything you could have done, I know you talked about it kind of when you were talking about in the original, what we were just talking about, but why real estate? Why not do something different? Why not, get into construction or something else? Why'd you end up in real estate?
It's happening. So don't even worry about that. What's interesting is I think that a lot of people, and this is about to be super controversial, like, real estate is fucking boring. It's boring as shit. And like, and I love it. And I think it was a way in, but I think life it boils down to, you have to test it out. And we bought some single family residence. We've done Airbnb at scale and hotels, and we've done everything. And what I find that I enjoy more is who I'm doing business with. And, we're focused, we're putting a plan together right now to purchase service businesses and scale out and hire jobs and business consult them and stuff like that. And it's all stuff that's going to service the real estate that we're already doing. And we're just going to be our own vendors and stuff like that. But in my opinion, just from a real estate point of view, it's a very tangible physical asset that can be done anywhere. And when you start knowing the numbers, it can really create, if I just look at my first 3 purchases, right? Like I let's be honest, I was shooting darts. Like, I mean, I had a theory, but it really didn't matter. And if I look at the 3 properties, I had, in 4 years, I had $397,000 in equity. Plus those were all making money during Airbnb. So I'm like, okay. So like, I thought to myself, I was walking down a street in LA after I gave one up in the divorce. I sold one, and then I sold another one. And I was walking down the street, and I was running the numbers in my head. And I said, you know what, dude? I said, what's more important to you? The equity you gave away in the divorce, the equity that you made, the cash that you made, or the fact that you executed something from start to finish? You bought it right. You ran it right. You dealt with all the problems. And now you have a foundation that's unstoppable to do whatever you want to do. And now we're buying $1 million properties in the Smokies to flip. And if I wouldn't have done those first, I would be like literally like so nervous I couldn't even pull it off. But now that we have, I think the confidence from executing those properties from start to finish is way more important than any money you'll make.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you're talking about, you have partners and.
Yeah, so we actually started a short-term rental fund. I used to have a management company with 2 guys where we were managing properties for everybody in 7 states across multiple cities, and that was great. But I didn't love the lifestyle that it did to me. It was very time intensive, and I was getting 100 messages a day, and it was just not what I wanted to do because I'm a lifestyle guy. And so I met these 2 guys. I've kind of been like shying away from the Airbnb space because I've been building some businesses and focused on my coaching. And I really wanted to find the right opportunity. For me, like, Airbnb is great, but if it's going to take up all my time, I don't want to do it. It's more of a lifestyle play for me, and I love the investors that are in it. So we found I found this guy who's a friend of mine who's run a fund before, and he's like, dude, I've always wanted to get in the space. I don't know much about it, but I know the fund stuff and I have connections. And then we teamed up with my buddy who's worked in Wall Street and works in the mortgage business and has ties to Smokies and everything. And we said, what if the three of us got together? And because we have such diverse backgrounds and such networks, that we would team up and just crush this. And so we got one under contract. We just formed like a couple months ago, like 2 months ago. And so we had another one that will probably get under contract this week. And then we're looking at development and stuff like that. And what we're going to do is it's a hybrid fund. It's a kind of a syndication per property on a fund platform kind of thing. So, but what we're going to do is the investors that are going to be with us, we're going to teach them Airbnb too. So like, I'm going to consult and teach you. So not only are you going to be able to invest with us and learn from the inside out, I'm going to show you how to go do it on your own too, because we have to understand that nothing that you hold in this world is sacred. Like if you have information and you have knowledge, like share it, like teach people, like, and so that's my favorite thing to do. People call me 3 times a week to co-host their property. I'm like, why? Like I could just teach you in like an hour to do it yourself with technology, and you can save, $2,000 a month. And so, that's one of the businesses that's a big focus for me. We have decided to go this route. I've done all the properties, the 2-1s, the apartments, the hotels. I've done them all. We're going luxury, we're going high end, and we're going in concentrated markets. So meaning that where we know there's travelers, we know people will stay, and then we're picking great markets like South Florida, Texas, Smoky Mountains, Blue Ridge. We're picking markets that we know we're going to pay a little bit more. But here's what they don't talk about in the short-term rental space. That's the biggest hiccup that nobody pays attention to. Does the area that you are buying in have the infrastructure and the people to support it? So like, let's take a Tahoe, right? Tahoe is an amazingly beautiful place. It's really beautiful. But guess what? It's so expensive that the cleaners have to drive like an hour away.
Yeah.
So you don't really have infrastructure. You don't have maintenance. You don't have this. And so, but in the Smokies, Blue Ridge, South Florida, like this is what this area is. They do that. This is what they do. So you have all the cleaners, all the handyman. And so that really allows you to manage from afar, because none of us live anywhere near the Smokies. One's in Florida, one's in New Jersey. I'm wherever I am at. So it really is a leveraging, the people of the area, because the most important person in the project is the cleaner.
Yeah. I mean, that is interesting too, because when you say the infrastructure and having everybody nearby and so on, it makes sense, because if you're doing Airbnbs, you're doing weekly rentals, you're going to need all that constant turn, and everybody needs to be close by to take care of the property. And it makes a lot of sense, especially South Florida and so on too. It's real interesting. And now you're going more towards the luxury end as well. Are you going more towards the luxury end on the rental just because of the way the rates are going, the way the market's shifting? The money's going to be there.
It's more, I like to, when I get in an asset, I like to have as many options as possible. But more importantly, it's more about the guest that's showing up there. Yeah. The level of guests, the level of headaches is not on the exclusive high end, which is like a $5 to $10 million property, which is a white glove service. Even in the 2 million range is the white glove service. We're from about 600 to like 1.5. Is going to be families. Groups of people, just a little better clientele. But also one of the things that we're looking at is that understanding that our mission as a fund is this: we're going to create wealth for our investors and ourselves, and assess every opportunity for its opportunity. And what I mean by that is the Airbnb short-term rental market is so hot right now, and people can't find anything. We're also looking at taking the property, remodeling it, furnishing it, designing it, setting it up on a platform, and then selling it, everything included, right? Because you look at people that want to get in the space, we're finding off-market properties all the time because we have the connections. They can't do it. Yeah. So not only can we do that, but what we're also going to do is I'm also going to sell my management company with it if they want it. So we'll make money off the remodel, we'll make money off the sale, and then we can make monthly income. So kind of like you do in your businesses, like catching the money 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great idea because you can't find them. And then people, as far as the rentals too, they're so booked up, especially down here. It's such a great,
You want to know what I heard the other day? This is a really good model. And I think it was happened down South Florida. I was talking to another big Airbnb guy. He has a mentor who has like 100 Airbnbs. What he's doing is he's buying a house, 3-car garage. He's taking the 3-car garage and he's turned it into a bedroom. He's furnishing the whole place. He's booking it out for 3 months on Airbnb, so they already have bookings, and then he's selling the property for like a 200% return.
Jeez. Good for him.
No, but because think about it, right? Here's the deal. If you can always find properties, then you always have deals, right? And so why do we need the money right now? Because I'm more worried about the cash because it allows us freedom to kind of maneuver, right? Because here's the biggest issue I have with Airbnb. You're trying to take a property that wasn't built for it, and you're trying to squeeze Airbnb into it. So I'm going to go the other way around. We're going to build the property straight up for Airbnb. And my idea is to have a property that has 4 masters. Mm-hmm. So then like 4 couples could stay, and like, then you could sell that turnkey and so like, there's a lot of opportunity when you're seeing numbers like you're seeing in the feverish in the market to like, I always look at everything playing the long game. And I think everybody's looking at it for transaction to transaction, but does this make the most sense for our company and how we need to pivot right now? If we were to have 500K or $1 million in the bank cash, we've got a lot of room to maneuver quicker than us trying to piece together this lender and this private. And so we're just looking at, letting the market dictate how we operate, and then having 6 different options to pull off that. That's how I like to operate.
Let's talk about the market dictating too, like, because I brushed on this a little bit, is with the higher interest rates, with less inventory, with obviously with inflation happening, get higher gas prices. You don't see that affecting the travel, the investing that you're doing, and
what you're seeing right now. And this is something that nobody talks about. With higher gas prices means higher plane tickets, because they get gas too. What we're seeing in the markets is regional travel, even though gas prices are high, is the number one travel. So that means think about investing in any area in a 2.5 hour to 3 hour radius from a major metropolitan. So Knoxville's an hour from Smokies. Nashville's 2 hours. Blue Ridge Mountains, you got an hour to Atlanta. Tampa, Clearwater. So you're seeing more staycations than ever, and you're seeing more 3 to 2 hour travel than ever. And that's been a trend for the last 1.5 years. So, all of this is, I'm kind of a nerd with this, and it's mainly talking to people. I love to watch people's buying patterns, travel patterns, and kind of like gauge off of that. I have a buddy in Austin, which Austin is basically like pretty much illegal to do Airbnb. And so he shifted to doing 30-day stays, and he's at 92% occupancy. There's a market for almost everything. And sometimes, because the data is so skewed in so many different directions, some of the times you just have to try. Like, you really have to try, and then understand that the insulated market on the luxury side in a place like the Tennessee and the Smokies and South Florida is a little insulated from the rate hikes and everything, because those people can afford those stays and they're still going to travel. So, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. And that's why I really can't stand this question. Well, where should I buy and what should I do? I'm like, dude, that's like a 16 subline question. Like, what's the property like? Where's the location? Why would, the number one thing that people need to do is like, what's the why of the property? Like, why would people stay there? If you can answer that question, then we have a place to start.
It makes sense, because if you're questioning, okay, should I buy outside of Tampa in a rural area or whatever, versus somewhere closer in downtown?
Where's your cleaners going to come from? Once again, I go back to that point.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to buy outside of Miami and like Homestead, and then they're going to have to drive all the way to it makes sense. And then, but people's question, well, here's another question you probably get too is, well, real estate's at an all-time high. Why would we invest? Should we just wait? Should we?
That's why we're adding our own value. That's why we're going in and buying a property. And yeah, it's going to be a little more work on the front end, but we're going to have a gap of, 150 to 300.
But what about the crash everybody keeps talking about?
Agreed. But I can't operate my life in that, because I think that ultimately, if you buy right and you add value, I think you're going to be okay. If it crashes, it crashes. I mean, look, like, at the end of the day, look, I've got tons of mentors that worth $30 million that lost everything. In 2008 were Ubering cars, and now they're worth like 30 million. And they were buying when their own, like my buddy says, he was buying when his own blood was in the street. The people that are going to get caught are the people that are buying too many damn properties, the people that are over leveraged with private lenders. Like, that should be it's so quickly how we forget. Like, I just won't put myself in that position, because let it be known that I will literally go work at McDonald's to pay my investors back everything they're owed, because that's not me, and I'll take the loss. And that's just the way I operate. And I just had to do that the other day on a deal that didn't go good, and I had to fork out the money to make my investor whole. But that was like a bad deal with bad partners, and I'm not doing business with them anymore, right? And so, like, I learned my lesson, but like, I'm not gonna. It's very important to me. We're not going to lose any money, but it's very important to me that investor's taken care of. And that's all that matters, because I know this, like, reputation is everything. Like, and that to me is the only currency that exists in this world. And so we have to make sure that we protect that, and we have to make sure that we're buying good deals. I don't know how much you play around, and you probably don't play around in the multifamily space at all, but I know a lot of the operators in the space, and in my opinion, here's how I view a good operator. If he's somebody I can invest $100K with and not even look at the deal, because I know he cares that much about his investors, and why would he tear up his reputation? And that's the guy I want to be in business with. And so the properties that we're looking at right now, the floor for us, for our investors, is 20% cash on cash return. But we're seeing mainly in the 30 to 35%. So, I mean, dude, somebody that's invested in the stock market or whatever, mutual fund, they're like, dude, this is, yes, let's go to town. And so, because we're giving that so much room and giving that investor such a great return, it allows us a little more freedom to maneuver. And I think you have to give yourself that to kind of operate.
I mean, the question that I'm sure you get asked is, do you think there is a crash coming? And if there is, when? And I mean, it's hard to predict. We all wish we had a crystal ball for this too, but I don't personally see it going like it did in 2008. I mean, I just don't see it doing that. There's so much demand for housing still right now as we speak. So will there be a pullback? That's kind of been my thoughts on it. Obviously, it could go polar opposite of it, but will there be a little more stabilization in the market? Probably. I think these crazy prices are going to stop, because they keep going up and up and up. And I think it'll come to a halt at some point, stabilize, and maybe drift down a little bit, but I don't see it going like this. So what do you think on that? What are you seeing on your end?
There's just too big of a gap between housing that we need and what we have. I mean, and so I agree with you 100%. I'm begging for a slowdown. like I would love to catch your breath, and I would love for these sellers to like check their egos at the door. I can't even tell you the negotiations we're dealing with right now. Like, they just won't even respond to us. And I'm like, dude, like, we're giving you a good price, And so, and we just won't pay full price out of principle, but that's a whole nother story. But I just don't see it in the demand. And here's the deal. I also stick my nose in places I should be. Like, I think that a lot of people operate on speculation, and I'm operating on pure facts from numbers. And I think that's where you get caught, like, it's just, but who am I? I mean, I left Austin 8 years ago, and I thought it was going to crash back then, and it has only done nothing but go crazy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, nobody knows, but if I were just to guess, there's too much demand for housing. And that's why I'm very adamant about getting into the construction development space. because I think that's going to play in our favor over the next 30 years. That's why I'm very adamant about, we're finding the right contractors. We're trying to find the right guy to do business with, because there is opportunity. Because I understand that those properties that I'm going to create and develop on Airbnb, they're never going to hit the market. I'm selling direct to investors.
Yeah.
So like they're never going to hit the market. So we're not going to pay realtor fees. We're not going to have to worry about all that stuff. Like I'm going to sell directly off my network. And so it's a win-win for everybody involved, and to bring the contractor on board with us, and to share in some of the equity. Like it's a win for the whole team.
Why not switch the mindset to annual rentals or year-longs or long terms? Because I was thinking about this too. There's just none. There's none out there because everybody's doing vacation rentals now. They're doing 30-day short terms and so on. So why you would think, because especially down here, it's hard for people to be able to afford to live down in this area, and they're having to drive. A lot of our subcontractors are having to drive from Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and so on, and drive all the way down here, an hour to work, hour and a half to work. And it's like, you start thinking about that. It's,
that's where I think you take a different. I think we've talked about this in Tahoe. I think you take a different route. And if I were you and the amount of businesses that you had, I would either construct, or I would buy an existing small hotel or a small multifamily, and I would turn that into employee housing and bring that in a package like you're offering your tenants, and maybe they pay a better price. And I think that this right here that you're talking about is more of a problem than anybody's talking about. Like like people are driving an hour and 45 minutes to go work in Tahoe. So the casinos, they're trying to fix this problem. And I think, especially for somebody like you that's going to have multiple companies, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And I really think that as we move on as employees, especially large employers, I think this is going to be part of the employee package. It's like giving you a good place to live, and at a decent price. And maybe you break even on this and it's a write-off, but at least your team's happy and they're closer to work and all this kind of stuff. So the opportunity cost is so much higher on that for you.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. It just makes sense. I mean, obviously we have a lot of subcontractors that we use and stuff like that, but it's like all of them are driving from Fort Myers and stuff like that. And it's the cost of gas and fuel, and we're having to pay, and they're getting paid more, obviously, as well. So that is costing more on our end, on the labor end of things as well too. So it's like you start thinking, because there's just personally for myself, I was thinking about selling my house and looking for an annual rental just for the time being to see how this market shakes out, and then I build something when I'm not going to build right now, but because we're a little too crazy with what we have and so on. But I was thinking about that, and there's just nothing on the annual rental basis, especially that'll take 2 dogs like I got. So it's just crazy. I was thinking about that, and it's just everybody is vacation rental driven down here. Everything's a vacation rental. You're like almost like, well, if you're all doing vacation rentals and then you all leave, you're all using your vacation rentals in season most of the time personally, and then you all leave for the summer. There's going to be a lot of vacation rentals sitting around here.
And here's the weird thing. I actually don't like that we're so hot on vacation rentals. And I know I'm in the space, but like, I don't.
That's all there is here.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed that aren't talked about.
Yeah.
And like, we're leaving today to drive to Maine, and I got a hotel. Well, why'd you get a hotel, Austin? Because the fees are out of freaking control on Airbnb. Like, like this state tax and this tax, and now they're taxing the host 14%. And like, so there's a lot of things that are going to shake out over the next couple of years that people aren't paying attention to. And that's why I'm leaving myself options to develop, sell, like manage, because I just don't think that we've seen, here's what scares me. We haven't even seen the institutional guys at scale get into the short-term rental market. And once they do, look out.
Yeah.
Like, and so like, I worry about a place like Tampa. I worry about a place like, the Smokies has been this way for 50 plus years. So they're pretty much used to it. But these are things that I think about on a constant basis. And so, I don't put all my eggs in one basket, because I don't think that that's the way to go. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely concern for a lot of conversations. And I'm more worried about the affordable housing route for employees and staff than I am about anything. I think if somebody can wrap their arms around that, and whether it be an RV park or a mobile home, like perfect example. My mom lives in Beaumont, Texas, which is Port Arthur and on the Louisiana border. They've got $15 billion worth of work contracts for the next 10 years. And if you have an RV park there, within 2 minutes of you opening, you're booked out for 4 years. Everybody pays for 4 years. And there's a waiting list of 1,000 people.
Wow.
And so the quickest solution to fix the housing crisis are RV parks. Well, guess what? Nice neighborhoods don't want RV parks. Mm-hmm. So where are they going to go? So these are the things that I think about on a daily basis. I that's where I would like to play in. We're talking about doing RV parks with like cabins and Airbnbs, and that's kind of what I see in Texas. It's kind of like a hybrid model, and like people are staying out there and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. We're in an RV right now, and we go around, and you see a lot of families at the RV parks. And, makes me think maybe they're, enjoying, or maybe they love paying the $30 a day. I don't know.
Yeah. It's something to consider. I mean, it's just, even with the housing too, like building, like a duplex or something like that. It's just because they're saying there was a news thing that said in Naples alone, the average rental for small rental is like $2,000 a month, which is crazy. And so you start thinking, okay, you do a duplex, offer that. I mean, people are willing to pay it to be down here, and people need, a lot of people are, these restaurant workers are just, I don't even know if they're struggling because the amount of money food's costing now in restaurants, and I hope they're getting tipped out well and how much they're working, because how many people are living down here now as well. But they're probably making good tips and so on, I hope. But it's just something I always think about too. It's like, when we find a little bit more time, that'd be something obviously to start considering, when we don't have 22 houses going and so on. So, but for now, that's what I'm focused on, is the construction and the houses we got going. But it's always interested me how everything is so season driven here. Like it's turned into that almost fully in weeklies and 30 days and so on, because we're in our season now, and we kind of go through Easter, and then summertime comes. A lot of people go back up north, very seasonal down here. And it's like, how's our summer market going to be too?
I have a buddy in Boca who over time bought a couple condos, and over time has bought this entire complex. He owns 46 units. He has an apartment complex. He does days, months, and weeks rentals. And I think he said he's at 97% occupancy the entire year. He has people that have come back for 15 years that rent for 3 months at a time. And he's like, dude, I can't. He's like, I don't even need to put it on Airbnb. Like, I'm just, he does. But like, yeah, I mean, that's just an example of like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah. There's definitely,
he's getting really good money. And to be honest with you, like the units aren't bad, but they're nothing to like, they're not amazing,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the demand's huge. I mean, because if even on Marco Island, you look at the hotel prices now, they're getting like $1,200 a night at the Marriott. It's just, so people are like, we can get a family in a house and rent a house for a lot less.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a thing. Trust me. We're outside of Boston right now, and everything's just, even the cheap hotels are not cheap. So
it's like, what you want is all this money and ever dry up that all these people are spending, or what? Because it's just crazy.
I don't know. People are weird.
I feel like I need to go on more vacations, seeing all these people around here.
Yeah, I try to keep my life pretty lean and simple. That's my philosophy.
That's the way I am. I'm not much of a go on vacation all the time too, and stuff like because I'm always working. Every time I do go on vacation, I get the million phone calls about something that needs to get done, and then I'm like, I should go on vacation all the time, because stuff always happens when you leave.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, let's talk about, I wanted to get your opinion too on the real estate side of the future of it. Obviously in Tampa area, I think they sold a house as an NFT. Also real estate and metaverse is becoming popular as well. Yeah. Are you going to get involved in that? How are you seeing that happen? Are you going to be putting on the headset and playing landlord? What do you think?
It's really funny that you say that, because I actually coach an entire company, 18 employees, who's in the meta universe, crypto NFT space. I've been coaching the CEO for a bit now. I coach the whole company, and we're actually going into business together. We just signed our first client yesterday. I'll wait till the ink dries to announce it, but basically he's a former MLB player, 3-time All-Star, super excited. And and we are going to do his NFT project. And
Nice.
we're super excited, but that's not what I'm excited about the most. I think I'm going to become an NFT like for my podcast, and we're working on that and all that stuff. And I see the tangible asset, but what I'm more excited about is I'm looking at, we're in process. I've got a phone call with a guy in like 2 days about creating a blockchain fund to invest in real estate. And basically we would be a fund of a funds where we would give money to operators, builders, and kind of be the bank for them. And the reason I'm excited about this is I believe that education and options are everything, right?
Yeah.
And so you're creating a system that's decentralized, that anybody can invest in, and we're going to create a community where we're not only are you invested in the fund that I'm going to teach you mindset, real estate, we're going to connect you with other great people and just kind of create this ecosystem of amazing people doing different things. Now, I'll be the first one to say, I've only really been in this space for the last like 6 to 7 months, and I'm swimming in deep waters 90% of the time. but I do know that it's after one thing. All these things are after one thing: community based with no censorship. That's all they're after. Like, let me be who I want to be, and we're down and we're really smart. And what I'm trying to figure out is you got all these guys who were invested really early in crypto and they can't get their money out. How do we take their money because they want to invest in short-term rentals or they want to invest in long-term assets, apartments? How do we take their money, convert it into a physical asset so they can de-risk some of their crypto portfolio? And that's what we're focused on right now.
I mean, it's a crazy space. I don't understand it. I haven't really dug deep into it. And I was like, I've had thoughts about it and like, okay, how can I become a builder in the metaverse
we
world?
we talked about meta universe short-term rentals, so it's definitely on the docket. I mean, I don't know, are you going to put on the VR goggles and go to a cabin in Tahoe? I don't know, but it's something to talk about.
I mean, people might be doing that. You never know. We live in a crazy world too. It's like when's the next pandemic going to happen? When's this going to shut everything down? War, we live in this crazy world of what's next, but there's always opportunity out there too. This is an opportunity, and the people that are there early are obviously going to win at that opportunity. So it's just figuring out, okay, how can I build something, a portfolio in there? But it's just weird. I don't know. Reality's reality to me too. Obviously, people are always going to need a roof over their head.
I think we have to be careful, and this is something that we talk about on a daily basis. I think that all this stuff is exciting, and we're having conversations and we're talking about it. But I still have businesses to run. I still have things to do, and so like, I think you can do both. I don't think you need to freak out and go all in. You're happy to go all, you do whatever you want. I don't really care. But for me, I'm more excited about talking to high level people and their minds and what they're doing. And they're cool. They're like, all the people at the company are fucking crazy smart, like way, building code and all this stuff. And I'm like, they're just great people to be around. Mm-hmm. And so, it's nice to be around there. It's really odd to see you as an NFT. They sent me mine yesterday and I'm like, it's kind of funny. And so I'm like, I'm all about it. Like, if we're creating it, and what I do like that I think is super important and built into all these companies is a space for charity. Like, we're giving a lot of the money away. And I think that's what I do like about like all this stuff, is it seems to be really driven from a good place. And obviously there's scammers out there and all that stuff, but it seems to be driven from a good place, at least the people I work with. And I'm super excited about the opportunities.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've been looking at it. Obviously, my main focus, like you just said, is the real world right now, building the business, the building business, because we're always going to have to build houses and put actual roofs over people's heads. And then eventually, we'll get into the building digital roofs over people's heads too at some point. So
hey, the ROI and profit gap on that is like killer.
Yeah. I want to talk about, before we wrap this up, I want to talk about your mindset coaching that you're doing. Obviously you have a coaching side of things as well. You're also coaching in real estate. So let's touch on that. You're doing coaching. How's that going? What are you doing with it? Where are you at?
Yeah, it's going great. I wasn't planning on it. That's for sure. I had it out farther. I was working private equity and I got laid off during COVID, and had a buddy ask me, and he was like, I'm going to pay you to hold me accountable. And I was like, no, you're not. And then, but that kind of spawned off to the coaching, and it's taken off. It's really something that I love. I was born to do. And I love it. And it's really interesting because each person has a different reason why they need it, right? And so I think what's super important is I've got guys who are building health insurance companies. I got guys who are brokers, wholesalers, builders. I got Meta Universe guys. I got all walks of life, 23 or 42. A lot of my guys are like 35 to 45. They're making probably 1 million to 4 million a year. They got the house, they got the boat, and they're asking me a simple question. Is this it? I'm not happy. Like, is this it? And they feel like they're kind of like stuck. Like they built up this thing and they got the money and it's supposed to be the thing. And they're like, I have no fulfillment, or I'm unhealthy. And so, what I'm selling is really hard to quantify, but like we're looking to create a better version of yourself where you're fulfilled, you're happy, you're healthy, your relationship with your spouse, your kids are great. And then you maybe by doing that, we're going to open up more business opportunities because you're happy and healthy. And it's just something that I'm extremely passionate about. And my clients are crushing it. Like I just tell this story that happened yesterday. I got a 24-year-old kid that I've been coaching for a long time, who's an agent, who his goal was to put together $12 million worth of real estate in this year. And he did it in 10 weeks.
Wow.
So he had to rewrite his goals. So we're rewriting his goals, which is a good thing. And so, it's just such a joy and a privilege to be able to be invested in somebody else's life and fully support them. And we create our identity based on our beliefs of who we think we are. And the problem is that the beliefs of who you think you are predicated on somebody else's views. And so part of the goal is to clear out all the noise, clear out all the mess, and get down to really it is that you want to do. And then once we built that, then we get to work. And so, I talked to a guy yesterday, brand new client yesterday, doesn't read, wakes up at 7:45 and has like 20 things that he needs to do that he's been putting off for 3 weeks. Yeah, that ain't going to work for me. So now we're reading. Now he did 3 things he needed to do yesterday. He's like, man, that was so simple, but I feel amazing. And so like, boom, that's going to correlate in his job, in his investing and all these things. So it really is just holding somebody accountable. And, I've been through my own trials and tribulations, so I could spot it really quickly. And we're doing some business consulting and we're doing stuff like that. And I just love strategy. I love business. I love, I'm an out of the box thinker. And, you ever seen the movie Tin Cup?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I use that line all the time when he talks about putting his hat on backwards and putting change in his right pocket and all that stuff. Like, that's what people need. Like, they just can't get out of their own way. And by getting somebody in your life or changing your thought process or doing this, you're creating a momentum to kind of think somewhere different and understanding that we don't have anything if we don't have our health. We don't have anything. You don't have anything. And your business or whatever you're doing doesn't even matter if you're not healthy. And so, I'm having to ream some guys because they're not focused on it right now. And I'm like, how can you think clearly if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not reading in the morning, or you're not pouring into yourself? And so, yeah, it's a little bit of everything, but I just love it so much.
It makes sense. I mean, I was probably that 7:45 wake up guy with a ton of stuff to do and a lot on my mind, and not reading, not doing the things that I needed to do until I got mentors and started pushing myself and doing different things. And now I'm waking up early. I always go to the gym in the morning. I need the gym to actually function and start my day and so on. And I'm trying to implement more things, wake up earlier and starting to see kind of the morning is very important versus staying up late at night. I used to be kind of that guy that would stay up late, wake up a little later too. But I started, now I'm earlier and staying up later, so less sleep. But
you know what can be messed with? You know what literally cannot be fucked with? Cannot be messed with? Consistency. It destroys everything. Destroys everything. All your imposter syndrome, all the business deals. It is a buzzsaw that literally can change your entire life. And 90% of my clients have no consistency.
Yeah.
No consistency in who they are, no consistency in their vision, and no consistency in what they're doing daily. And so we fix that, we fix everything. And that's my number one focus.
I agree. It's like with 75 hard now, I'm doing it a second time, and it's like you're consistent. I mean, obviously, I have less time to do my edits, all that kind of stuff that I usually do have because I get home from work and read, and then I got to do an outdoor walk, and then you eat dinner, and then by the time you blink, it's time to go to bed again. So, but I'm trying to keep up with everything else I got too. But there's no excuses. You can't make excuses. You just got to figure it out, fit it in, get the work done, and so on. But what 75 hard always does to me is it kind of those consistent things that I get off track with, it brings it back, and it helps me realize, because you get so clear with it, of what I was missing, what I wasn't doing, and what I need to shift to get back to where I was, or and selling real estate and construction and all that stuff too. But it also clarifies, okay, what's the next step to build the company, and it's weird. It's just every time I do it, I just get back on track, and that's why I've done it like once a year too. But it's like you said, consistency is so important. It's huge. It's something that you need to do, and it's everything. It really is everything.
So this guy I follow who has like 6 businesses. He crushes real estate. This dude's a killer. He tweeted this the other day. He said, "You want to know my favorite asset class? Me." he goes, books, mentors, relationships, ultimate. He said, the sharper I am, the better yield on everything I touch.
Yeah,
it's the truth, man. Here's the deal. I don't have an option but do 75 hard. Like, yeah. I think it's like a standard now, and I just do it, and people don't know that I'm even doing it right now because I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I have 5 businesses. I have a coaching business, 2 podcasts. I'm traveling. Like, we're doing a lot of stuff. If I'm not giving myself what I need in the morning, I can't be what I need to my clients or my business partners. And so it's kind of my default setting now, and it's changed my entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge, man. And I highly recommend it to anybody to get back on track with anything too. And you always pick up something each time you do it that stays more consistent from the last time you did it. It is hard. Yeah.
I'm not eating gluten right now. And let me tell you something, try to travel and not eat gluten. Dude, some days I don't eat, it's like, whatever, dude. Like, hey, this is where we're at, but it's like, it's that constant training of the mind. I love it, man. Keeps me sharp.
Yeah. It's definitely clarity for sure. Let's wrap this up real quick. I always get into personal questions. What about you personally? You're building amazing companies and coaching. You continue to grow each and every day. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or our own lives to help us grow?
Number one thing that people say about me that resonates with them, and the reason I get clients, is they said that you're authentically you. He goes, there's no BS. You're just being yourself. And he goes, and not to mention, I don't have a good poker face, but I think that everybody needs to strive to be as close to themselves as possible, because understand this. You want to know how you get rid of competition? You just be authentically you, because nobody can be you. And that is my hope for everybody out there.
Love that. Yeah, love that. I always get something different every time with that question. That's why I love that question. I say that every time too, but that's awesome. Let's talk about your future too. I always talk about people's past. So where will we see Austin in the future, 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Behemoth. Dude, we're building something that scares me. And so if it scares me, then we know it's where we need to be. And what we're really trying to do right now is we're really trying to create an ecosystem of support for amazing human beings, to support them on their journeys to be small business owners. We're looking at creating kind of an incubator, for lack of a better word, where we buy companies, support our employees in creating their own companies and giving them the tools necessary and funding and all this stuff. So that's something I'm building right now with a business consultant partner of mine. For me, I told myself I'll be 40 at the end of this year. I told myself that I'm going to give myself 11 years to build like an animal, like till I'm 50, and then sell what I don't want to keep and keep what I do, or put somebody in charge. And then I'm going to spend the rest of my life giving middle school, high school kids financial literacy and mindset and health training, and investing in their businesses. And I think that we have in order to go and fix what we need to fix, education. We need to fix, we need to, I see education more as a specialized training. Like if you want to learn construction, you learn from Bill. If you want to learn marketing, you learn from a guy that actually has a marketing agency, not a teacher. And so it's something that's a business plan in our portfolio. And it's something that I'm really going to drill down hard on. And my dreams scare me and make me sweat. And so I know I'm headed in the right direction.
It's a good way. Yeah, it's a good way to put it too. I agree with you too. Education needs to be revamped. It's like, even with the construction side of things, they took like construction tech, stuff like that out of schools. When I was in high school, they had it, and I enjoyed that class too. And other opportunities need to be in there as well that they've pulled out. It just needs to be revamped. But I see, like you said, specialized education should be. It's probably going to shift to that, where it's actually, you need business professionals that are part of the trade teaching the trades or teaching those specific things.
Have to, dude. There's nothing I get more excited about than like one of my partners or one of my friends' kids, and they're like, "Hey, do you mind talking to him?" I'm like, "Oh my God, dude. Like, yes, I'm going to tell you everything they won't tell you in school. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to be focused on." And I just leave those conversations just on cloud nine, because, I wish that somebody would have grabbed me at 17. I got rich dad, poor dad at 17, and that changed my life. But, I wish somebody would have took me under their wing and been like, "No, dude, relationships are the currency, stand on your values, be good to people, and everything will work itself out." If I would have known that at 17, that's the only thing I would have focused on.
Yeah, we'd be light years ahead, right? But yeah, I was more focused on girls partying.
Yeah, exactly.
Last question, what this show's all about. What exactly do people need to look for when choosing a mindset coach, investing coach, or partner in investing? And why should they choose Austin as their go-to?
Well, you don't have to choose me, so I'm not even going to answer that, because I don't have an ego. But mainly from a coaching, mentor, business partner point of view, and I've been in failed business partnerships, and we're building this new business, and we're building it on principles and values, and we haven't even talked about what type of business we're doing yet. And I think that's why I know we're in the right place. And so understanding that the people that you're in business with, or the coach you hire, or the mentor, the mastermind that you join, do they have the same values as you? Like, I'll never take advice from a billionaire who's 80 pounds overweight and treats his family like shit. So you got to have the full package with me. And so I am going to keep it real. I'm going to get up in your grill. I'm going to love you when you need to get loved. And then I'm going to slap you across the face when you need to get slapped across the face. And we don't have an option but to help you. And people don't understand that I'm not coaching you. I'm coaching your family. I'm not coaching you. I'm coaching your spouse. Because if I make you the best version of yourself, then that's going to radiate in your family and your spouse. And so I have a new barometer for coaching. And this is the only thing that matters to me. It's not even about the money. I don't even care. When the wives of my coaches text me that don't know me and they say, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it," that's when I know I'm good. So that's how I roll these days. So that's happened like 4 or 5 times. So I know we're in a good place. So
that's definitely knowing you're in a good place. Yeah. For sure. Awesome, man. This has been awesome. I'm glad to return the favor, have you on. I knew this was going to be a great episode too. Last thing real quick, where can people find and connect with you?
Yeah, so you go to austinlinney.com, Linney. You got my podcast. You can reach out to me. Hit me up on Instagram, Austin Linney. Shoot me a DM, and I'll totally respond. I love to talk to everybody.
Appreciate this, man. This has been awesome. I appreciate you coming on today.
All right. Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all on the next one.